I'm comfortable standing too, but I can't stand in one place. I need to keep moving because of all the leg injuries that I've had. Megan, correct? Megan was kind enough to introduce me as a player. I used to play basketball before anybody in this room was born, but I'm the most injured player ever. I was 14 years in the NBA. And of those years, because of the structural congenital defects in my feet that led to an endless string of stress fractures, I've now had 36 orthopedic operations. I have 2 fused ankles. My knees, hands, and wrists don't work. I also have a fused spine. Other than that, things are fantastic up here. And the ability, which all of you are going to have to develop in your life to overcome adversity, to be able to reinvent yourself in a constantly changing world and environment, and to be able to create something in your own life that's valuable, that somebody, you never know who it's going to be, is going to pay you for it. And that's how you build your life. That's how you create a place and a world and a self-contained environment when we think of the biosphere that went on down here and the fantastic dream it was, but it didn't work. But that's the way life goes. When you play basketball, as we're going to see with this incredible game tonight, the game of the millennium, the trees have come down from Northern California to the desert here, and the cats are going to be clawing them and scratching them and everything, and Linda Ronstadt's going to be singing about sleeping in the desert today. So it's just going to be a fantastic event, but you never know how that game of life is going to play out. Just think of a couple of friends of mine from before your parents were born. That's how old I am. And their names are John and Helen. And they're from San Francisco. And like me, they're deadheads. And they went to a show one time in San Francisco. And they came staggering, stumbling out of the show. And they looked at each other, beautiful married young couple. They looked at each other and they said, that sounded awful. And so they just had this lightning bolt flash of inspiration. And they went home and they started drawing and they started dreaming and visualizing. And they started their own sound company. And they now have the greatest sound company in the world. And they're in Berkeley and they employ thousands of people. Go on the internet, Meyer Sound, M-E-Y-E-R, MeyerSound.com, and check out their whole story. And it's fantastic. And that's the way it's going to happen for a lot of you people in here as you chase your dream. And hi, Kevin, what did you want to talk about this morning? I'm sorry.
We're kind of wanting to set it up.
Okay.
Because I'm old enough to remember when you played for UCLA, when you played for the Trailblazers.
Those were good teams. Oh, that was a bad team.
Celtics. And I remember something from many pounds and years ago. I played basketball. I remember my coach pointed to you.
You were a guard.
Actually, I was. And he said he wanted us to block out like Bill Walton, but not wear our hair like Bill Walton.
Oh, gosh. Well, I used to have hair.
So why don't you start out sharing with the younger generation here how you got into the game, maybe your time at UCLA, a little bit about your sports background.
Quick, I'm on the guards, right? Because guards, their basic job is to inbound the ball, feed the post, and play a little token defense on the perimeter. Right? So one time I'm playing at the end of my career on the Celtics. Now, Wilt, one of the 5 greatest centers of all time, one of the 5 greatest people of all time. If anybody ever in your presence says anything bad about Wilt Chamberlain, hold your tongue. Don't get in an argument. You don't need to. Wilt could stand on his own merits. But just know, anybody is bad-mouthing Wilt Chamberlain on any front, you just know in the back of your mind and in your soul that that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So Wilt, when he was playing, he developed the groove. Now just think in life. The basis of all sports in life is the groove. To get into that groove. Same in music, same in life, same in social life, in everything you do, the groove. The basis of all sport comes from surfing. Get in that groove. Get in the wave and get going. So Wilt's groove was this blue line right here, right down the middle of the court, from basket to basket. And that was where the centers went. And nobody ever got in their way because the centers, as the big guys, as the foundation, as the anchor, as the reason you win the championships, the centers, they just go right down the middle and nobody gets in their way. It's like the big bus I have. Now, it's unbelievable. When you go outside at the end of this show today, go outside in the parking lot. There's this big giant bus that is like my bus, and it's unbelievable. I can stand up in it, I can lie down in it, and it's got my picture on the side of it. So what could be better? And so the groove. Every center since will always had that groove. And so in practice one day for the Celtics, at the very end of the line, Danny Ainge, the Celtic legend, who I knew since he was in 8th grade when I was playing in Portland for the tremendous Trailblazer squad that we had. And Danny is messing with my brainwaves, and he's just trying to just frustrate me and get me out of sync and out of the zone. And so while he's got young, fresh legs, I'm broken down, my body doesn't work, and I'm just trying to struggle to get up and down the court in the groove. And Danny keeps running over and jumping in front of me, right? And trying to break my stride, and I have to stop and slow down. So finally he does it 2 or 3 times, and I just smack him one time. And I say, get out of my face, guard. And he doesn't say anything. He runs away and does something else. He goes and hassles some other player. And then the next time down the court, he does it again. And then he keeps doing it. And I keep bumping him and throwing him out of the way. And finally, he just gets right in my way. And I just uncork. I just lift him up off the ground and throw him back about 20 feet, right? He goes sprawling. He jumps up, and he comes over, and he starts jawing at me and pointing right at my face, right? And then Jerry Seasting, who's on my team, on the second string, he comes over and starts defending Danny. And I look at Danny, and I look at Jerry, and I say, you know what, Danny? The only thing I hate worse than a guard, and I turn to Jerry Seasting, is a second string guard. Now get out of my face. So the question was how it got started, right?
Yeah, did you end up
Please
playing high school basketball?
Please excuse me. My wife, Lori. Are they running that slideshow? Yeah, my wife, Lori. My wife, Lori, she always tells me, Bill, your mind is like a slot machine. You just have these wheels that are constantly turning and you never know where it's going to stop. So how it got started?
Yeah, you played high school basketball.
Let's start before that.
UCLA.
Let's start before that. My parents are the most unathletic people ever. Ever. Don't think for a minute that life is about genetics. And I never shot a basket with my dad. Not one time. I saw him run once at the church picnic and fell over laughing. But my parents, they taught me about family, love, trust, confidence, hard work, the team, a great appreciation for the outdoors, nature, fresh air, clean water, music. My dad was a social worker by day, an adult educator by night, and a music teacher on the weekends, classical music. My mom was our town's librarian. Our life as a child was one of books, music, conversation, and the outdoors, growing up in San Diego. And while you folks have a wonderful place here in Tucson, San Diego, one of the greatest benefits of my life, growing up there, yeah, but it's also a huge curse, because growing up, I thought the whole world was like San Diego, where all the girls were beautiful, it was sunny and 85 degrees every day, and all the roads were paved, and you could go to the beach whenever you wanted, just ride your bike or ride your skateboard everywhere, and it was just fantastic. And then one day, when I was 8 years old, I was bored stiff. Academics were a piece of cake, and well, we didn't have a television, we didn't have anything. We just had the outdoors. I had a bike and a skateboard, and I had an older brother. And while athletic success, prowess, is ultimately not genetics, realize that my brother and I, he went to UCLA a year ahead of me. My brother was an academic All-American at UCLA football player. He was an All-America football player. My brother and I are the only brother combination in the history of the world to ever play in the Super Bowl and to win an NBA championship. But so my brother, who was a year older, and I was kind of following him around one day, and he goes to this thing. I didn't know what it was, but it was indoors, which I rarely spent any time indoors. And I later learned that it was basketball. And I had never seen basketball before. I had no idea what it was. I'm 8 years old. And they're all sitting on the bench watching this game and playing in this game, and we got a coach, and there's a coach named Rocky. And so I just go and sit on the end of the bench because there was a chair there. And my brother Bruce was on the team and playing. And I'm trying to figure out what this game was. And Rocky, the coach, he's standing up there walking up and down the sidelines doing his job. And he says, hey, where's that little redheaded guy with the freckles and the big nose and the goofy, nerdy-looking face and can't speak because I'm a lifelong stutterer. Couldn't say a word till I was 28 years old. Couldn't say hello, couldn't say thank you. Now that I've learned how to speak a little bit, they make me bring a clock to this room here, and I hope you guys have comfortable chairs. So Rocky says, who's the little guy with the red hair who can't talk? And it's, oh, that's Billy. That's little Bruce's brother. Billy, let's see what you got. So he puts me in the game. And I don't have a shirt on or that. I just have a pair of shorts and tennis shoes with no socks. And I go out there, and I'm 8 years old. They throw me the ball for the very first time. And I'm at half court. And I look down, and there's my teammate wide open to the other end of the court. I take the ball, and I throw it as far, as hard as I could right to him. And the ball from half court swishes into the basket. I go, yeah, this is great. And Rocky looks at me. He says, Billy, it looked like you had some talent, but I didn't think the game would come quite that easy to you. But basketball did come very easy to me. And as did academics. Nothing else did. But I was touched. The same way that hopefully you folks are going to be touched at this great university here. The way that our son, Luke, was touched by Jim Rosborough, by Lute Olson. I was touched by Rocky. Because Rocky, he wasn't my first coach. He was my best coach. Rocky, who grew up in San Diego himself, like I did. Rocky, when he graduated from high school, didn't know what he wanted to do, so he became a fireman for the city of San Diego, a frontline responder, somebody who goes where there's danger to help other people. And Rocky had 3 children of his own who were the same age as Bruce and me. And Rocky was dissatisfied with the way things were going at the school we all attended in the neighborhood. And so Rocky stepped forward and said, I'll take care of this. And Rocky, he became the volunteer coach. The volunteer coach, just like Jim Rosborough is right now for the women's tennis team. And he is still there every single day as a volunteer. And what made Rocky my best coach? His joy of life. The fact that he made it so fun. We couldn't wait to get there. Hopefully you're going to find that in your own life. Think of the incredible broadcast. Now, I know that Kevin is a broadcast professor here, or journalism professor. Broadcast in the news. Get it out there. The greatest broadcaster I ever came across was Chick Hearn. Chick Hearn for the Lakers, who made it so much fun. We didn't have a TV growing up, but I had a transistor radio. You young children are too young to realize what it was like when all we had was AM radio. And we had the little transistor batteries that we had to test on our tongue to see if there was enough power left in it to get through that game before we had to go out and spend another quarter to get another battery. And Chick Hearn, like Rocky, like my parents, is absolutely incredible in my life, the way they made it fun, the way they made it exciting, the way they made it interesting, the way they challenged us to be a part of something special. Imagine if you're a young child, imagine if you're a student just getting started, and your first experience with your dream and the coach is Bob Knight. What are you going to do? You're going to quit and you're going to go become a rock and roll star. So I was lucky. I was touched by these brilliant people, and I had this unbelievable coach as a child who, like John Wooden and the other great coaches that I played for in the course of my career, they never really taught basketball. They taught life. And I was also privileged and fortunate that as a child, I had heroes and role models. And always ask yourself, as you're chasing your dream and building your life, who those heroes and role models are in your life. Who do you want to emulate? Who do you want to follow in their footsteps? Who do you want to walk like a giant? Now, I want to recommend the latest musical release by Neil Young. Neil Young just had a great year in 2012. He had a fantastic book, Waging Heavy Peace. He had a summer release of American classics called Americana with all kinds of wonderful songs on it, like This Land Is Your Land, Traveling On, Susanna, Tom Dooley, all the great traditional American songs that he put the Neil Young Crazy Horse touch to. But then in October, he came out with a fantastic new release, great fresh material, 2 CDs, 8 songs, and it's called Psychedelic Pill, which I recommend a daily consumption of the music. And so there's on these 8 songs, there's 4 anthems for all time. And in no particular order, except for the last one. There's Born in Ontario, Ramada Inn, For the Love of Man, and the one I want to speak about right now is the challenge to every one of these people in this room here today, me included. The name of the song is Walk Like a Giant, which is Neil's challenge to us to stand tall and to be proud. Walk like a giant. And the lyrics go something like this. It breaks your heart to think how close we came. Think about how good it feels. I want to walk like a giant on the land. I don't want to float like a leaf in the stream. And so there was little Billy growing up in the 50s and 60s in San Diego with heroes in the sporting world, Bill Russell and Muhammad Ali, in the social and the political arena, Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy, Sargent Shriver, all people who stood for more than stuff, who stood for more than material accumulation and physical gratification. When I was 16, Martin Luther King and Bobby Kennedy were shot down, gunned down in front of us, in front of our own eyes, and the devastation that that caused to the world. People who stood tall for others, walking like giants themselves, gunned down because of what they believed in our country. I got to meet the other 3 heroes, Sargent Shriver, Bill Russell, and Muhammad Ali. We all became friends over the course of my life. And the fantastic thing about it was that as a young child, as much as I emulated them, as much as I idolized and canonized them, when I got to meet them as people, they were better. They were better and nicer and kinder and smarter than I ever could have visualized. And when that happens in your life, that sense of reaffirmation, and then to be touched, Rocky, Chick Hearn on the radio, my parents, my high school English teacher, my dad, who was instrumental in all of our academics growing up, he would go and interview the principal on the first day of school every year and make sure that I got in all the right classes with the best professors. And that is your challenge, as now you're out here on your own, is to go and find out who are the top professors. It doesn't matter what they teach. Because John Wooden, the most structured and disciplined and organized of all the teachers I've ever come across, and you would never associate the word structured, disciplined, and organized with Bill Walton, but John Wooden, yes. My high school English teacher, my dad nicknamed her Mother Goose. And she was absolutely incredible, and I still stay in touch with her to this very day. But then when I was 15, and everything changed for me in my life, it was 1967, and it was the summer of love in California, and it was fantastic. And I'd already been to my first Grateful Dead show, and I was on my way. It was just incredible. And the world was swirling around me. I was a very good basketball player already, and all the college coaches from around the country would come and make their offer, make their pitch, the recruiting process. And it was wild. There was no rules in those days. And these coaches would come in and they'd say, Billy, Mr. and Mrs. Walton, sky's the limit here. What would you like? Here's the 3 C's of college basketball: cash, car keys, condos. Billy, you come to our program, we're going to make you the most successful player in the history of our school. We're going to set all the records. Mr. Walton, how about a new job? Mrs. Walton, how about a shopping spree? How about some new jewelry? Billy, here's the cheerleader's phone number. She's our closer out there. just let your imagination run wild. And I used to think that I had a vivid imagination, but that was before I met Dennis Rodman and Marv Albert. And they changed the entire spectrum of what was going on out there. And so then John Wooden walked in. John Wooden, much like Noodles, much like Jim Rosborough, because we went through the same recruiting process with our sons. And it all changed for me, the way it all changed for Luke, when Luke and Jim Rosborough came into our family home. And the message was the same both times. Bill, Mr. and Mrs. Walton, Luke, We know what the other schools are promising you, but that's not the way life works. There's no guarantees out there. Only thing I can promise you is that I'm going to give you a chance to be a part of something special. But realize to be a part of something special, that's a privilege that you earn every single day. And at your ultimate level, Bill, Luke, Mr. and Mrs. Walton, of success, happiness, achievement, and accomplishment in life is not based on what you do. You're good enough, Bill. I've seen you play. You're the type of spirited, enthusiastic competitor that we want. But if you want to be a great champion, you want to win everything you ever do, you got to make the choice to be on the right team. And that's what we have at UCLA. And I will make you a promise that if you come to our school, that everybody on that team, those guys sitting next to you in the locker room, in the bus, in the huddle, on the road trips, in the game, that they'll be great champions as well. And that's how you're ultimately going to be the best. And so it was fantastic. I said, sure, let's go. I'm getting on this bus. And I left
Can I ask
home.
a question about that?
Yeah. You jump in whenever you want, you know.
He told me that.
I've learned how to talk a little bit here, Kevin. So.
A little bit. You know, it fascinates me you're talking about it because I'm remembering that when you went to UCLA, there was a lot of talk in the press about the fit because you were kind of considered the wild child, and then here was Coach Wooden, and you say now, all these years later, that was fantastic. How hard was it for you to make the transition to Coach Wooden's approach?
I've always been mainstream. It's inaccurate to describe me as a wild child. It's those other people who are out there.
Guilt by association.
I don't believe in group guilt, but I am guilty of everything, mostly of smiling on cloudy days. And it's a beautiful day here in the desert today. Oh my gosh. I got to be in a hotel room and have the door open. How many times does that happen? And so I get to UCLA. I couldn't wait to get out of my parents' house. My parents were so straight, so strict. It just wasn't me. And we had too many rules, too many obligations, too many responsibilities. So I leave home, I'm 17. I'm going up the road to UCLA, and I'm free at last, yes. This is age of Nixon and Watergate and Vietnam and rock and roll with the Stones and the Beatles and John Lennon and John Fogerty and Creedence Clearwater and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Neil Young, Bob Dylan, Grateful Dead, all these fantastic artists, Carlos Santana. And I'm just on my way just to the promised land. And little did I realize that there was John Wooden standing on the steps there at UCLA saying, come right on in here, young man. You're mine for the next 4 years. I thought my parents were strict. This guy, John Wooden, was off the charts. But the very first day I get to UCLA, unpack, took me 3 minutes to unpack. I had a couple pairs of jeans, a couple pairs of tennis shoes, and a couple of T-shirts. And I get there and open up the Daily Bruin, the newspaper on the campus. Page 2, Neil Young in concert at Royce Hall, 7 o'clock start. Oh my gosh, we got to go right now. So my roommate and I, Greg Lee, he was on the basketball team too. And we just said, we got to go, man. This place is going to be packed. And so that we're not going to get in. So we go over there. We were the only people there. And the ushers, they said, oh, you're the new basketball guys. Come right on in here. There's no charge for you guys. We walked in. They put us in the front row. And it was fantastic. Neil's solo concert played all night long. And it was just fantastic. But
legendary basketball star Bill Walton passed away on Monday. He was privately battling cancer for the past year. The Hall of Famer was 71 years old. He had a legendary career on the court and then became a truly beloved broadcaster. The NBA officially announced his passing on Monday afternoon, and everyone in the basketball community is deeply saddened by his passing. Tributes have been pouring in for him across social media on Monday. Walton was a two-time NBA champion, winning one title with the Portland Trail Blazers and another one with the Boston Celtics. He is also one of the greatest college basketball players of all time, winning 3 consecutive National College Player of the Year awards between 1972 and 1974. Walton originally joined ESPN and ABC in 2002 as the lead analyst for NBA games before shifting to college basketball in 2012. He also worked for CBS and NBC and was named one of the top 50 sports broadcasters of all time by the American Sportscasters Association in 2009. He had 4 sons, Adam, Nathan, Luke, and Chris, and when Luke won his second NBA title as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers, the Waltons became the first father-son duo to win at least 2 titles. Walton stuttered, and he said it took until his late 20s before he became comfortable speaking in public. Our condolences are with his family, friends, and fans. May his soul rest in peace.